Well, hello, everyone. I'm going to give it a few minutes for those who are just grabbing your cup of coffee or your lunch, to join us here. Or if you're watching the replay, welcome. We're very excited to have you here on this live session that we have prepared with Peter Hartl. And first, I want to introduce myself for those who we might have just met or we haven't met yet. So first, I want to welcome you, to today's live conversation. I'm Cory Davison, and I'm the author of the 4X Method. If you haven't seen it yet, this is the book. It's the experience equation. And I'm also an MIT certified AI strategist. And my role is all about, how do you bring the human back to the center in your AI strategy? Because we can't forget about the human, right? And then, so today joining me is someone I've had the privilege of knowing and working for over a decade. So Peter Hartl is here. And let me tell you about Peter. He is an advisor to C-suite leaders across industries. And since we've known each other, I've seen him work in tech, post-secondary, government, and the energy sector. And I've had the privilege of working with him, alongside with him. And one of the things that I can share with you is that Peter is not just all about the jargon. It's not all about it's not just about the tools and in the transformation or the processes, which are important. But Peter, he's one of those rare transformation leaders who brings both systems thinking and a deeply human-centric lens to everything he does. I can attest to that. And that's why we get along so well, right? So, Peter, it's so good to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you, Cory. It's great to be here.
Awesome. And so let's dive right in. Peter, today, we're giving our audience a flavor of what we're going to be bringing in the AI Summit that we kick off on November 4th. And one of the questions, so today's just a flavor, everyone, so if you want more, we'll talk about that. But what we're talking, my first question to you is, Peter, are we in an AI bubble?
Yeah, that's a good question, Cory. Maybe this is one of the ones we need to take a sip of coffee for, because there's a lot of people talking about AI right now, and a lot of people saying that we are in a bubble, we are in a something that may pop. Well, when we look at AI, it truly is transforming the way we work, the way we live, the way we purchase, the way we communicate, and it's quickly becoming linked into our life in different ways. Linked into the way we run our businesses. It's hyper speed. The change has been everywhere. The technology is advancing so quickly that it's opened up areas that were never there before. And with that said, when it comes to large enterprises, there's a number of AI projects that are heading towards an ROI correction, right? Where that ROI needs to be defended in a bit more of a stringent way. The year 2, the year 3 costs are increasing as the models and the agents become much more sophisticated. Data costs, compute storage, all these different things, the costs are dramatically increasing, but the ROI isn't always there. We've heard reports recently where 95% of Gen AI projects are failing to deliver those returns. Whether it's truly 95% or a different number, there absolutely are a number of projects that are in that bubble moment that the ROI is going to be looked at. So it's good that there's lots of failed proof of concepts along the way, but there's going to be much more rigor towards looking at, do I buy? Do I build? Do I integrate? Do I do something else? The limit to experimentation is coming. And we're here. So looking at it as whether or not the ROI is there is absolutely key, and that's the bubble that is being felt right now. Is what's the return for the amount of money that we're spending on AI?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. That well said. These are unprecedented, right? This basically we are learning on something completely different than what has been done before. And there's like, I like to call it the shiny object effect, right? It's like everyone is like, okay, AI is the thing. Everybody like, let's move in here. But thinking about the risk of replacing things that are already broken, right? So it's basically, that's the risk, right? That, we're looking at, it's a very completely different way of thinking. And so it reminds me, like basically innovation outpaces, the adoption readiness too, right? In many cases. And for those leaders watching who don't have a tech background, that's a perfect segue to our next question. Peter, with that said, what should executives in a non-technology roles consider about AI within their teams or their divisions?
Yeah, so it's interesting you talked about shiny object syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Organizations, executives, board members, they are facing a constant pressure to deliver. There's nothing new about that. But there is a lot of shiny object syndrome when it comes to different parts of AI. And it's difficult for those executives to become experts in AI technology. And in fact, many of them probably should become experts. They're good at what they do. They've been able to build their businesses, be able to lead teams, and do that in a really effective way. But what happens is a lot of these executives that I've spoken to move away from AI being a how, which it is. It's a way of doing things, and they turn it into a why. Right? The why they're operating, the why they're doing something, well, is because of AI. Is that really a good reason? AI should be utilized to help organizations achieve their why, whether that's pulling more minerals from the ground in a sustainable way, developing and selling a physical product, or providing a service digitally or physically. AI should be used to help people be better at delivering, not the why of the organization. It's a how. And we need to, as leaders, become very clear on what our whys are so that our choices are guided by that why. So if our why is associated with achieving a very specific objective, whether that's financial, whether that's being able to do delivery, cost savings, the how of AI needs to connect into that why really clearly, because costs can go out of hand very quickly. Start small, grow, expand. So again, leaders, they need to consider AI as a how, not the why. And when they put AI in that place, they'll be able to make good decisions, and then their teams will be able to cascade those decisions in a very systematic way.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is it's interesting because you're referencing, starting with the why, right?
Yeah.
And in many cases, that is the obvious, but is the thing that is often overlooked because we enter into the how and the fixing, and it's not for lack of interest or terms, but there's this pressure of joining, executing. I was in a recent summit where the big conversation was about governance, right, over all of these items, and it's not about just like sprinkling and replacing tools, and there's this human component, right?
Absolutely.
There's this element of like we talk about it, and you'll hear us talking about like the 4X method, which is how do you bridge the customer, the employee, the brand, and the product relationship. And now you throw in the equation the AI agent, right? You throw in the equation that is like, you do treat it like a human, right? Do you treat it like a human experience?
Absolutely. And AI, as you mentioned, should be there to make people better, right? And ultimately be able to do jobs in a different way. And what's interesting from an executive point of view, as you look at the implementation of AI to support your why, the next up is how does that affect your operating model as you move forward? So if you're going to make people better along the way, and you're going to treat AI as if it was another one of your capabilities from almost like a people perspective, as you mentioned, how do you change your operating model so that you reduce variability within your operating model, so that you're able to deliver consistent results? It's it's really easy to, well, I shouldn't say it's easy. It's common to say,
Yes.
to see a spike with the introduction of AI. Things are
Mm.
going really well. But how do you reduce that variability over time so you're not going up and down, but you're creating more of a being able to achieve your targets in a way that's sustainable? Looking at it from that perspective as a, how am I going to work differently? How's my team going to work differently? How do I create visibility in what AI is going to do? Where's decision rights held? How do I create accountability? How do I even manage the autonomy that's associated with AI? These are all questions that come up, and questions that need to be integrated with strategic planning, need to be integrated with budgets, need to be integrated with how AI is going to be used within the organization.
Yes, absolutely. And in this case, Peter, how can transformational leaders, like yourself, you have been in this role, being that advisor, to the executive leaders. How can others become, in this role, become advisors to executive leaders in this direction of where, where AI is going and how it's going to be implemented. Or we're talking about that's not non-technical. Obviously, there's like the technical, we obviously know what your role is, right? But right now
Yeah.
we're talking to the audience that is like, you were saying it's like, I don't need to understand all of the pieces, but what do I need to understand? How can I become an advisor to it?
Yeah, the first part is being able to listen and being curious about what those leaders are looking for, and helping leaders understand and communicate the goals very, very clearly. Why are we doing what we're doing? And what are the quantifiable objectives that help us determine if we're successful, right? And
Right.
being able to work with leaders to be able to identify those, but then bringing in AI and other pieces of technology into that strategic planning early, it helps you understand, is that objective realistic? Is that objective even strong enough? Could it be stronger with investments into AI in certain areas? Uh, so for leaders who are non-technical, it's again first listening to other leaders, what their goals are, what their objectives are, and being able to connect together what the organization can do to really align the organization, and be that bridge between silos and break down silos as we progress.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I'm going to show here we have, and sorry, I popped in a question. I was looking at from some of our audience, but thank you. I have a question here from Brad Gibson. He says, I wonder how much of ROI failure, whether or not it's perceived or actual, is due to trust. We don't trust the data or the insights, therefore we are hesitant to act upon it, right? Whatever intended purpose might be. So thanks, Brad, for this comment, and hope you're doing fantastic here too. So what do you think about we're talking about trust factor, the data. Oh my gosh, we can go and talk a lot about data, right? But what is your
Absolutely. So when it comes to trust, there's I often think about it in two ways. There's first of trust of AI in itself. AI, depending on the implementation, is very, very smart, but it's not necessarily wise. So it oftentimes requires a human to validate what it's delivering. It may be that we get it to look at something and be able to create a wonderful model, and we look at it and go, huh, is that really right? Right? We're still in that infancy stage. The second part is the trust of the data. There is a bit of a tendency to really like what we build, right?
mm.
Really
When we fall
liking
in
what
love
we
with our
build.
baby, right?
We're fall in love with our baby.
Yeah.
We at times need to be a bit more ruthless on that ROI and go, what's it actually saying? And do we trust the data that maybe it's not delivering the return on investment that it should? And a pivot should happen. So one of the things that Brad said, intended purpose. So what is the
Mhm.
purpose of that AI implementation? How is it connected to the why of the organization? And if it's not delivering towards that why are we doing it? Is the ROI going to be there? It could be the coolest thing in the world, but if the ROI is not there, we really should be looking at it and to go, oh, is this the right thing to do?
Right, right. It's just kind of chasing that endless pursuit of it's for fun, right? And business
And
should be fun, but ROI should not be at the expense of ROI. Yeah.
yeah, when we think about business, if we were to think about it like a sporting event,
Mm-hmm.
there are clear objectives to determine who are the winners within a sporting event. Clear objectives that tell us when we can lift that trophy above our heads. And
Yes.
as organizations, we either want to make money, we want to spend or defer less, or defer money, or defer spending, I should say, or we want to be able to spend money, make money. That's the other one. We want to
Then
make
they
money.
got yes, right? Yeah.
So as we go through all those different things, we need to be able to determine whether or not the actions that we have within AI, the investments that we make, is it actually helping us achieve those goals? Is it actually helping us getting closer to lifting that trophy above our heads?
Yeah.
To say this was successful, we made money, we saved money, or we were able to defer that spend.
Yeah. And all of that, while being good stewards of all the resources that are provided to us, right? Or to, being good stewards of the world, I'm saying, right? And the people, right? The well-being, the stuff. And it's like, it's all interconnected, right? And that's what we're talking about, that the data, the processes, the people, the outcomes are so relevant. So Peter, any final notes, as we are, again, this is a teaser, and you can see why Peter and I get along so well and why we've worked together so long, because we can have fun with these topics.
Yeah, we can.
But Peter, tell us about, some notes, but also what can our viewers expect by joining, the AI Leadership Summit. So we have the Human Edge AI Leadership Summit coming up on November 4th. Tell us about why are you a part of it? What do they expect?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say why I'm a part of it is, number one, to have a good conversation about AI and the role that transformational leaders can have within AI. And to be able to elevate that conversation to a business and leadership type of conversation rather than strictly about technology.
Mm-hmm.
And at the AI Summit, the conversation we'll have, it's not about PowerPoints or speeches. We actually want to do a bit of role playing associated with this. We would like to be able to help transformational leaders support and enable executives and even board members on how to use AI wisely. The goal is, how can we become better advisors? And that's not just about answering the technical question, but about asking the right questions about the business, about the goals, about the objectives, and more importantly, about the people, about the humans that are there, and what are some things we can do to align strategies better, but also ensure that while not turning AI into a why, that we're able to integrate AI earlier in the strategic planning process, so that we can see what the opportunities are, and that we can adjust objectives so that it makes use of that technology better. So it's about, how do we listen? How do we talk to care agents? How do we talk to field workers? How do we talk to finance, HR, vendors, but most importantly, customers, constituents, users, validate their ideas and help them understand what the opportunities are and create a great experience for everybody.
A great experience for everybody. Amazing. And this is all about augmenting, right? Augmenting the experiences. We have seen this evolution through technology. We have seen how it can make people's lives better. And then how do you become a player in it? So thank you so much, Peter, for giving us some insight into what they can expect on the Human Edge, the AI Leadership Summit that is coming up on November 4th. And if you haven't signed up yet, what are you waiting for, my friends? It's like, so let me share a little bit about it. If you are a leader who wants to understand how to work with AI and not be replaced by it and not be daunted by it as well, speak to ROI, all these important topics, this summit is for you, because there's a lot of noise. Everyone's preaching to be an expert in AI. I am bringing you 6 incredible, true experts, and I know they don't like to be called experts, but I'm calling it out, including Peter. And so these are experts. When I thought about this summit, I thought, how do we get across the spectrum? Everything from what do you need to know? So there will be experts in tech, in product area, in cybersecurity. I'm bringing you an MIT AI strategist with a master's in AI cybersecurity. We have design experts and transformation leaders like Peter. We have leadership, from the CEO and the CTO suite, a former director of software engineering at Salesforce. I mean, who doesn't want to learn from these people, right? And here's the twist. We're putting away the PowerPoints, like Peter said, in speeches. Instead, we're talking about real life scenarios where transformational leaders like you and many of you are advising executives on AI projects. And you might also be a leader in the making. You might be saying like, hey, I'm just like in this cubicle at the end of it. You need to know, you need to become a player of this. You need to be part of it, because otherwise it's going to catch you by surprise. It is happening. You got to come to it. And we'll explore questions from transformation to how do you keep the experience first for your customers, for your employee, to keep your brand flavor, to make your products be even better for your customers and deliver on that promise. So here's the link, theforexmethod.com/AI summit. And with that, we are excited and looking forward to seeing you on November 4th. And you go ahead and look at the agenda, look at the incredible people that are coming here. Peter, what a pleasure to have shared the mic with you today again. And for everyone watching, stay tuned on our next live conversation as we continue with this countdown to the Human Edge, the AI Leadership Summit that you cannot miss. See you on November 4th. And thanks, Peter.
Thank you.